Welcome to the Sales Leader of Influence show. For sales leaders who lead with soul, spirit, and spine. In a world obsessed with tactics, this is the show for those who know leadership is personal. And here's your host, Bernadette McClelland.
And welcome to another episode of the Sales Leader of Influence show. And I have just come back from speaking to a little over 850 leaders, credit union leaders, on the topic of deliberate disruption. Now, they weren't sales leaders, but I'm in the mood to deliberately disrupt a few more leaders. And I think I might today with the topic of forecasts and the fact that I don't think forecasts are quite as broken as people might think they are. I think maybe it might be a little bit of role clarity being the case, a little bit of role clarity being broken. So I want to share a few of my thoughts today on how role clarity can actually perhaps be a few of the gaps that can be leading to a little bit of, I guess, lack of accuracy when it comes to forecasting. So I'm going to maybe push a few little buttons today, but I'd definitely like to get the juices flowing when it comes to thinking about a few things outside the box. And so, hand on heart to sales leaders, let's be a little bit honest. When it comes to forecasts, do you think that they might get the blame for a few little things, such as maybe things like CRMs getting the blame, or maybe salespeople that might be sandbagging, or maybe AI tools that aren't as accurate as they could be? Because let's face it, I mean, seriously, forecasts can't quite collapse that easily because they are numbers. People, yeah, sure, people are part of it. They can collapse a little bit because of people, but sometimes people aren't quite as clear on their roles when it comes to driving the numbers. And that's what I want to talk about today, because I want to bring together some aspects around three things today to help you get a little bit more clarity, to help you with your leadership. Because I think when it comes to forecasting, I think sometimes it's just a little bit of accountability that can be a little bit blurred. And so the three things that I want to look at today kind of merge around roles, merge around responsibilities, and also results. And I think if we can bring them together and get a little bit more, I guess, clarity around those, it'll help bring a bit more reliability into your forecasting. And so if that sounds like a good idea to you, then that's what I want to bring to the table today. And it's an area that I've worked a lot in over the years with my clients in-house. I love this topic. What I love about it is I love it when I see not so much the ahas, but when I see the team come together. So a couple of different ways when you can bring a sales team into a room and they leave that room and everybody is on the same page, because you can get a sales team in the room and it's the tiny nuances where they'll say, I did not know that I was supposed to do that. Or I did not know that you were responsible for doing that. And even little things like somebody saying, I didn't know I was supposed to charge for delivery. And little things like that. Now, those things add up over time. I know it's not forecasting, but it is still a cost to the business. Something so small like that, that's a sales team. Now, when you get other departments together and you have the sales team, or you have a sales leader and you have operations, we all know marketing and sales, get them in the same room together. It's like two cats in the room together. But it's so important when you can get a couple of different departments together. And so role clarity is seriously such an important deliverable, and it can create such an impact for forecasting for sales, but also for the company as far as revenue is concerned. It's such a simple tool, and guess what? No tech is involved, no added resources are involved, and I just love it because you can see the difference it makes. Now, as far as my journey is concerned, sure, I run my own business now, and I've come from corporate where I was in a sales executive role, but I've also run my own small family business where I had staff, a sales team, we had a warehouse, and one day my warehouse manager didn't front. And so what did I do? I decided that I was going to go out there in the warehouse, and yes, I operated the forklift. I was stacking pallets, I was unloading trucks, and it was while I was on that forklift, I realized nobody was doing my job. So nobody was looking at the financials that day, nobody was doing any planning, nobody was having any strategic calls, and that for me became a metaphor as a leader, because that is exactly what happens in business. The leader steps into the wrong roles. The manager is too busy reporting instead of coaching. The salesperson is too busy doing activities instead of worrying about outcomes. And so it's the same thing as everybody in a game playing out of position. And what happens as a metaphor, what happens there is what gets broken in the equivalent of a sales game is the forecast. And so this metaphor is what I use when I'm speaking to groups. Why? Because it's universal. And so it doesn't matter if you're a team of 5, or it doesn't matter if you are an organization of 5,000. The same thing applies. If there is a lack of clarity, then the results are going to be broken. And so what I want to do today is I want to help shift your perspective when it comes to clarity. And so when we think about our forecasts, and I'm coming back again to the numbers, they're not going to be inaccurate, or they're not going to break because of bad maths. They're going to break because of a lack of clarity. And it comes back again to the fact that leaders are too busy focusing on the numbers and not looking at ownership and ownership of the roles. And managers are too busy looking at reporting and not coaching, and salespeople too busy looking at the activities rather than the actual outcomes. And so if we think about the fact that a forecast is really a lagging indicator of how clear our roles really are. And so I want to look at the three key, I guess, factors, the 3 R's, if you want to call it that, today, that I've experienced, and I'm really, I guess, pulling apart part of my program in the Sales Leader of Influence method. There's 6 parts to it, but I'm just going to kind of shortcut to 3 for you, and look at roles, look at responsibilities, and look at results. And so I'll kick off with roles, and I'm going to kind of ad lib a little bit here, because it's role purpose. And when we think about purpose, and we hear the word purpose, I don't know about you, but when I hear the word purpose, I mean, first off, I think of Simon Sinek. But there's also another part of me, I don't know, a cynical part, I don't know, but there's another part of me when I think of the word purpose, I kind of tend to think of, I don't know, fluffiness, or I don't know what it is, but a lot of people do. Maybe that's just me. But purpose is a really powerful word, actually. It really, truly is. And role purpose, when you think about that, it gets forgotten, that word, in the world of sales. Because sales is so numbers driven, it's so commercial, it's so outcome focused, it's so revenue based, it's so masculine. Purpose is usually not thought of. That's probably where I'm going with all of that. But if we think for a moment about the fact that in sales, we are so focused on making sure that we drum home to our salespeople that we've got to talk to the buyer about benefits. What's in it for the buyer? We can't talk about features and advantages. It's got to be benefits. What's in it for the buyer? But what about our salespeople? What's in the role for our salespeople? What's the purpose of their role? Why are they working for us? What's the purpose of their role? Because this is going to keep them working for us, and it's going to get them up every Monday morning. And so, are they dialed in to the purpose of their role? Because purpose leads to performance. And we've got to remember that we are not paid for what we do. We are paid for the difference that we make for our buyer. And so when we are purposeful and we head out every day with a pep in our step, that level of conviction rubs off on other people. And so our buyers buy our conviction. They buy our level of certainty. And that is what we need to bring home. And so this is why role purpose is a key component of revenue and role clarity. And so that's one part of my program to start with, but it's also a key part of role purpose. The other part of role purpose is your role identity as a leader and how you show up. And there are different levels of role identity when it comes to sales leadership. And this is part of the role, the sales leader of influence model, if you've seen that, because it goes from manager to motivator to mentor to mobilizer of the team to multiplier of impact. Now, if you're a manager down at this level here, you will be operating at a totally different level to somebody who is a mobilizer. You will more than likely be chasing numbers versus a mobilizer who knows to come to the table to coach their salespeople. And so understanding where you fit as a leader is a huge part of that role purpose as well. Now, another component of understanding role clarity is getting clear on the different roles within your team, within your sales team. Because role clarity has nothing to do with job descriptions. And too many times, salespeople will apply for a job and they'll come on board and they'll get onboarded and they've applied for a role and they start that role and all of a sudden there's this ambiguity. Like, what is my actual role? And I know I left a really good role back in corporate days to take on another really good role. And in that role, I lasted 3 months. I had no idea what that role entailed. Absolutely no idea. And I pretended for as long as I could to be working. And the ambiguity, the stress that caused me, even though I got paid really well, just wasn't worth it. And so when there's a human cost to ambiguity. And so 3 things show up when there is ambiguity, and it is a duplication of effort. All of a sudden, and this comes out when you do a revenue and role clarity exercise, is you've got 2 people who are doing the same thing and they're tripping over and people are wasting time. Or you find that nobody's doing something. These are gaps that are impacting your forecast because now you've got gaps and you've got stalls. And so, nobody's owning the handoffs. And you've got deals that are sitting in limbo. And you've got pipeline clogs. And velocity slows and revenue's impacted. This leads to frustration, leads to stress. And when these handoffs aren't happening, you've got a salesperson might give something to pre-sales or it might go to credit. And there's assumptions that are being made. And then all of a sudden the deal's being called and it's not happening. And so this has nothing to do with forecast. It's got everything to do with lack of clarity. So I'm going to get you to think about, okay, where are some of these issues that could be leading back to different aspects of roles, role purpose, role identity, and role clarity. Because the last thing that you want also is someone to come in, when it comes to ambiguity, coming in as a hunter and finding out that they're a farmer, or coming in as a farmer role and finding out that they are expected to do hunting. So that's one aspect that I want you to think about. Secondly is the word responsibility. And this sits inside the revenue and role clarity system, is under role priorities. And there are 2 aspects to role priorities. One is responsibility and the other is key performance activity. And they have different meanings. And so role responsibilities are kind of your big rocks, if you like. And responsibilities are what your role owns. The role owns responsibilities, and activities are what the role does. And forecasting breaks down when they get confused. And responsibilities, you really only have a couple of responsibilities. You really only have probably 3 to 5 responsibilities. And responsibilities are around accountability. And your activities have nothing to do with accountability. And so where it gets mixed up, and this is the same for your salespeople as well, where it gets mixed up is that leaders, you will actually measure activity, because activity is really easy to measure because it's so visible. And what you're not doing, you're not enforcing responsibility. You're not enforcing the responsibilities because they're commercial. So I'll give you an example that might actually help. So if one of your reps' roles, let's just say you've got a BDR, and they're making 50 calls. Their responsibility is not to make 50 calls. It's actually to make qualified appointments that progress. Now, if you're holding them accountable to the 50 calls, that's not what should be being done. That's where I'm coming from, because 50 calls don't pay the bills. And so getting really clear on the difference between the responsibilities and the activities, that is what is going to make the difference. And that is what's going to impact the forecast. And so activity versus ownership, that is what is going to tighten your forecast. And so that's a key component when it comes to revenue and role clarity. So I also want you to get very, very clear on when it comes back to, okay, your responsibilities are what the role owns, and activities are what the role does. And get clear on that. And then finally is results. And results aren't just the scoreboard. Results, they are a feedback loop. So the results are going to show you what's working and what's not. When it comes to your leadership, when it comes to everything that is aligned to the way that you are running your business. Results, as we know, don't lie. And results, as we know, don't care. And if there's anything that any of us, hand on heart, don't like to look at, it's the mirror, especially when the mirror is telling us the truth, and we don't like to look at the truth sometimes. So if you're seeing results that you don't like, then there's something in those results that are pointing back to you as the leader, and not necessarily always the salesperson. And so if you want to take a deeper dive into this, then I'm going to invite you to take a look at the revenue and role clarity diagnostic that I've got available. And it's based on all the in-house. It's based on what I've been doing for my clients over a number of years. Just hop along to revenueandroleclarity.com. It's there, it's available for you. And bringing it right back to how I started, this is all about the fact that our forecasts aren't necessarily broken. Sometimes it's quite simply, it's a lack of role clarity. And it's not a lot of expense for you to fix that. It can just simply be you looking deeper at what you've got already there and bridging the gaps yourself. And if you want any help, please don't hesitate. Give me a call, reach out to me. More than happy to have a conversation with you. And on that note, wishing you an amazing week and continue to lead with soul, spirit, and don't forget that spine. And we'll see you this time next week. Bye for now.
Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. Thanks for watching the Sales Leader of Influence show with your host, Bernadette McClelland. See you next Wednesday live at 5 o'clock Eastern.